this business about Goldbach levels.
In this video, I'm going to provide you with an overview and an introduction to quarterly theory. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you understand that Goldbach is the price component of Enigma. Okay? Now, quarterly theory is the time component, and you need both price and time to align. Now, going into the charts, I'll explain quarterly theory using the yearly chart for Euro USD for last year, 2023. Now, quarterly theory applies across all time frames. Now, so this is 2023, 2023's price action. So let me just mark out the year so we get our boundaries correct. So the start of the year was the 2nd of Jan, 2023. The end of the year was the 29th of December. So let's start mapping this out. So quarterly theory, as it implies, you would split your time frame into quarters. Now, when you go into the fractal quarters, there are some special rules and it's slightly different. However, this is my introduction, so I just want to get you used to the basics of quarterly theory first. So I'm going to use the Gann tool in order to map out the quarters for me. So mark it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and I have just marked something out called quarterly. So there you go, from the beginning to the end. So Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So let me just draw the dividers. Q1, end of Q2, end of Q3. Now, some knowledge. When it comes to Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, they can either present themselves as an accumulation, a manipulation, a distribution, and then an X. X is your second distribution. So X can either be a continuation of the D of the first distribution, or it can be a reversal. So if you think about New York, what do we know about the New York Open? It can be a continuation of London or a reversal. So the first variant of quarterly theory is the AMDX. The second variant is XAMD, where you can have a form of distribution first, then the accumulation, then the manipulation, then the distribution. Okay, so let's have a think about this when it comes to smart money theory. If you trade a London session, you want Asia to accumulate. Okay? Then London will manipulate. That's where you want your entry. Then you should have some distribution. And then you may reverse at the New York Open. Okay, if, however, Asia expands, we don't want to trade London because it's typically going to accumulate. New York will then manipulate London, and then you'll have the distribution. So this gives you your framework. This is why we always have a look at Q1 to see if we want to trade Q2. And if you think about this on the daily cycle, Mondays usually accumulate, Tuesdays manipulate, Monday, then we have the distributions. This is why a lot of people don't trade Mondays, because Mondays typically accumulate. However, if Mondays move, and if you have a distribution on a Monday, then Tuesday will probably accumulate. So think about your NFP week, right? If we have NFP on a Friday, then Mondays usually move, and then Tuesdays will consolidate. This is how you can start understanding the framework of how time and price comes together to get your high quality entries and understand exactly when you want to enter your trades and when you want to form those high probability setups. Okay, now let's map this out. This will be Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Let's draw some boxes first, just to aid your eye. So from the high to the low is your Q1. I like these colors. So I'm going to call that Q1. Okay. From the low to the high again, in this area, we are Q2. Now, it's your job as a trader to understand whether we are in AMDX or XAMD. Right? The way you do it is you look at the Q1 and say, how many pips did it move? Was it an expansion or was it a tight consolidation? Okay, in this case, this was the X and this was the accumulation. Okay, this was the accumulation. The next quarter, if this is the accumulation, let's draw out the next quarter first, Q3. What did we do? Q3 manipulated Q2. Okay. There was your manipulation. And then what do we have as Q4? Q4 would be your distribution. Do you see the distribution happened nearly exactly at the beginning of Q4? X, A, M, D. The key is we do not trade Q1. We wait to see what happens in Q1. And then we know whether Q2 will be a manipulation or could it be a consolidation. Then you would manipulate in this quarter. So this is on the yearly time frame. Now let's look at a fractal quarterly example. So if we look at the monthlies and have a look at the price action for Feb. There's Feb. Let's go down to the 1 hour chart. There's the 1 hour chart. Let's hide the yearly quarters. Now fortunately there is an indicator which will map the quarters for you. I like the day quarterly theory by 2 degrees indicator. And let's just focus on the monthly quarters for this example. So again, I'm going to draw out the quarters for you. So this is the line. Okay, this is the separation. Let's draw the vertical placements as well, so it's super clear. That's the end of Q1, end of Q2, end of Q3, end of Q4. So once we start drawing this out, okay, there is your Q1, there is your Q2. So the question you do need to ask yourself straight away is, did Q1 consolidate or did it distribute? Q1 was obviously range bound. What did Q2 do? Q2 manipulated Q1. Let's map out Q3 and Q4. Let's draw it out. Q1 was the accumulation. Q2 was the manipulation. Q3 was the distribution. Q4 was the reversal. Okay. Accumulation, manipulation. As soon as Q3 starts, we have the first distribution. As soon as Q4 starts, we have the second distribution. Now, something that will blow you away. I initially showed you the yearly cycles, then the monthly cycles. Let me show you the weekly cycles. These are the weekly cycles: accumulation, manipulation, distribution, X. Where did our manipulation happen? It happened in the manipulation of the monthly cycle and also in the manipulation of the weekly cycle. This concept is fractal. This is true time. You need both time and price in order to have an understanding of Enigma. Goldbach is price. The advanced version of quarterly theory, which I teach on my Discord server, is time. time and price must come together for Enigma. This is the basics, but I thought I'd give you an introduction.